again. Welcome to the Career Guide webinar, Investing Your Career to Reach the Top. Regulatory Authority. CFA Society Philippines would like to take this opportunity to recognize its annual corporate sponsors. Platinum sponsor, National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation. Silver sponsor, FTI Consulting Incorporated. And bronze sponsor, Infinito. Today, we will have an overview of the career path in regulatory authority. To formally welcome us all, may we please have the President and Chairman of CFA Society Philippines, Dr. Robert Ramos, CFA, CAIA, CIPM.
Hi, good evening to all of you. It's a pleasure to have you here. Today, we're very proud to have one of our brightest board members talk to you about her career path. Jane is not only a very successful lady, she's also very smart and has a lot of years that she can share with you in terms of everything that she's learned. I hope that you take these lessons to heart and that you're able to apply the things she teaches you. Remember, in terms of this path that we're taking, especially during times of COVID, the best thing that you can do when you're locked in your own homes is continue to improve yourself. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy this webinar.
Thank you, sir. Joining us today to moderate the session is Brian Dominic M. Miranda, AVP for Partnerships of the Ateneo Management Organization. Let us please welcome Brian Miranda.
Hello. So today I'll be introducing our speaker. So it is Miss Mary Jane Chiong, is the Managing Director and Chief Audit Executive of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. As Chief Audit Executive, she leads in providing independent, objective assurance and consulting services to the Monetary Board and BSP senior management to ensure governance, risk management, and controls are effective. Prior to her role as Head of Internal Audit, she served as the former BSP Governor's Special Assistant for Strategic Initiatives, providing high-level support for financial sector reforms on foreign exchange and capital markets, as well as digitalization and financial inclusion. She also provided technical advice to assist the governor in making and implementing executive decisions in the areas of monetary policy, communication, financial supervision, financial market operations, and reserve management, among others. Ms. Chong joined the BSP as a bank examiner in 1998. She went on to specialize in foreign exchange derivatives, market and liquidity risk management, and treasury operations, and was instrumental in setting up the capital markets specialist group, which she headed in 2006. She rose through the ranks and was eventually promoted to Managing Director in 2017, where she headed the BSP Financial Supervision Research and Consumer Protection subsector, handling 3 departments covering supervisory policy, supervisory data, and financial consumer protection. As a BSP scholar, Ms. Chong completed her MSc in Capital Markets, Regulation, and Compliance, graduating with distinction and granted the Academic Achievement Award by the University of Reading, United Kingdom, for topping the MSc class of 2010. In 2005, Ms. Chong was awarded the right to use the Chartered Financial Analyst CFA designation prior to completing the CFA program. Ms. Chong finished her MBA major in finance at the De La Salle University with high distinction in 2001. In 1997, she ranked 5th in the Philippine CPA board exam after graduating cum laude salutatorian at the Ateneo de Zamboanga University. Let us all welcome Ms. Chong.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Brian, and to Rob for your kind words. I hope everyone is safe and dry because we have a typhoon.
Okay. So now we'll be moving on to the webinar series. So Ms. Chong, why did you pursue finance? Who or what influenced you to work in finance? So talk about your career path and the different jobs you worked in. You can refer to childhood or any such events that mattered.
I have 3 siblings, 2 brothers and 1 sister who took up accountancy. And I guess that significantly influenced my decision also to take up accountancy when I was in college. I graduated from the Ateneo de Zamboanga University. So after taking the CPA board exams, my first job was actually with SGV. It was just a short stint, and most of my classmates also went to different audit firms. So it was quite natural after passing the CPA exam that we took roles in external audit. So after around 6 months with SGV, I joined the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas as a bank examiner, as you have previously introduced me. You mentioned this also. So I basically be talking about my career growth in the BSP. And I've been with the bank for, I can't believe this, but I've been with the bank for more than 22 years. And I am really deeply grateful for the opportunities for professional growth at the BSP. So I will just try to summarize the different jobs that I worked in, covering 22 long years. So most of my career has been with financial supervision. So in fact, I was in financial supervision for more than 18 years. So, but even within this space, I was fortunate to be exposed to various areas. As a young bank examiner, I focused on treasury operations, derivatives licensing, market and liquidity risk management. This specialization was influenced by one of my professors actually in the MBA when I was taking up MBA, when he introduced me to the CFA program. So I realized early on that in order to be a good financial regulator, I needed to understand the business of banking and its operating environment, especially in the field of treasury where there were I encountered a lot of jargons that were used by our traders and other professionals in the field. I am also quite passionate about teaching. And at that time, I was also very active in developing training programs, being a resource person for our internal and external seminars, workshops, etc. I was also a part-time professorial lecturer, both in the undergraduate as well as masteral programs. I used to teach in San Beda and De La Salle University, where I took up my MBA. Sometime in 2012, I was assigned to head a department supervising around 200 banks. So the role involved managing examination teams, as well as recommending and implementing enforcement actions and resolution strategies. One of the hardest challenges that I encountered as a financial regulator then was making the hard decision to recommend for bank closures to protect the depositing public. So after 5 years in this role, handling different portfolios, I was promoted to managing director, covering 3 departments on supervisory policy, supervisory data, and consumer protection. Can you still hear me, or is there something wrong with
Yes,
the
po.
internet connection? Okay, thanks.
Still
Let's
hear
see.
you.
There seems to be something wrong at my end. Okay. Being managing director for the 3 departments was also quite short because at that time in 2017, when the late governor, Nestor A. Espinilla Jr., was appointed as BSP governor, he invited me to join his team as his special assistant for strategic initiatives. So as chief of staff of the governor, I provided him high-level technical support to push for bold financial sector reforms in the areas of foreign exchange, capital markets, financial inclusion, which is really the heart of his reform agenda, and digitalization. So I also provided other technical services for the governor. So last year, I was appointed as the chief audit executive, and now I handle internal audit within the organization. So that basically covers my 22 years with the BSP.
Okay, ma'am. So, what do you consider as the highest achievement in your career? And how do you relate your network and knowledge from CFA Institute membership / candidacy that have helped you?
Being in public service has never been in my plans during college. As I was taking up the CPA board examination, and I was really rooting, actually working very hard to be a top notcher in the board. So that was a dream in itself when I was in college. My dream job then was to be a chief finance officer of a conglomerate or a multinational company. However, during the Asian financial crisis, a lot of these multinational companies were not hiring. There was freeze hiring during that time. So that was in 1997. So I filed applications with a lot of companies, but it was eventually BSP who took me in. And so far, I have no regrets in joining the public service, as I find my role in the organization very fulfilling. So I'm really proud of where I am right now. A wife, a mother of 3 kids, and a career executive. I was able to achieve this in spite of the challenges I faced early on. Then as a single mom, I pursued the MBA degree, part-time, self-finance. I also worked my way through the CFA program. Thankful to the CFA Philippines because they provided scholarship as well for me to finish the CFA program. Also, I did this part-time. And during that time, I felt that there was no life, except work and studying for the CFA exams. I finished another master's in the UK away from my BSP under the BSP scholarship program. And at one point in my life, I was also an OFW wife. And at the same time, managing a very demanding work schedule for the governor. But I would say that in spite of all of this, I would say that as a central banker, knowing that our work has meaningful impact on society, having the core mandates of price stability, financial stability, and efficient and safe payment system, I would say that knowing that our role in society is meaningful is the highest achievement of my career. So in terms of the CFA Institute membership or candidacy, the program itself, the network and knowledge from the CFA program helped me in my career. More than the technical knowledge, what I find very valuable in the CFA program is the adherence to the highest standards of ethics and professional excellence. This is very fundamental to the values of the CFA Institute. So being a civil servant, I find that this value also, I can relate to them. This deeply resonates with me as my job, as I mentioned earlier, really involves fulfilling our core mandates of price stability, stable banking system, financial stability, as well as promoting a secure and efficient payment system.
Thank you for that, ma'am. Moving on. So how were you able to achieve the role you're in now? What sort of career management techniques did you use? What sort of skills do you need to develop to succeed? And what have you learned or you wish you'd known earlier in your career?
Okay, so let's take it one by one. There's a lot of questions covered in
Yes, po.
that. How early on, I knew that professional development was my main responsibility. And I had a natural interest in studying. So you're asking what sort of career management techniques I used.
Yes, po.
It's very helpful that the BSP, our organization, has what we call a competency-based performance system and effective capacity building programs. So on-the-job training as well as formal seminars, workshops, training programs. So basically, the competency-based model helps talents, the employees, identify what are the skills and competencies needed for the job and helps us to develop our own individual plan on managing how we build our own capacity and competency. So I guess this kind of environment actually helped me in terms of planning for my career, what areas I want to specialize in, and the ability also to rotate among different departments within the organization also help develop my capacity. So I guess with my natural curiosity, the effective institutional programs great mentors. I have had a lot of mentors within our organization, and a little bit of luck as well. I'd like to think that I have a successful career path. So when making a career decision, I usually like to plan ahead. So I guess this is something that all of us can learn, you know, when we try to manage our career. We need to plan. So when I decide to pursue something, whether it's education or a career decision, I think of the future and how it will impact me. But a lot of my work exposure actually are also unplanned. So sometimes they just pop up, opportunities just pop, and you just kind of have to seize the opportunity, you know. So I was, for example, when I was asked to join by the late governor, to be his chief of staff, I knew it was going to be tough. I was actually happy where I was because I was just recently promoted and I was working in an area that I had solid experience on. I absolutely had no idea how to be a technical advisor, technical staff of a high level official. I know the working hours were going to be brutal. I knew I would be totally inexperienced in certain fields like monetary policy. I have no background in economics except for the basic modules in college as well as in the CFA program. But after careful thought, I finally accepted because I know that I could contribute to the successful implementation of the bold financial sector reforms. And in the process also, I would learn a lot from the experience. So it's a balance between knowing that you can contribute something, there's something of value that you can put on the table, but at the same time, you know that you will learn from the experience and later on that can help you in your career as well. So in terms of what do I wish I've known earlier in my career, you know? By nature, I am not the people person. So I actually made a lot of mistakes in the past as well. So it was very hard for me when I started to take on managerial roles. You know, establishing relationships are probably the hardest part for me because my natural preference is to just work in the background and do geeky stuff, technical stuff. You know? So I actually had to learn the hard way because at the start of my career as a manager, I tended to alienate staff. I was quite autocratic. I like doing things fast. And if the staff couldn't deliver, I tend to do them myself or delegate them to more reliable persons to do it. No? And this was during the height of the global financial crisis in 2008. So there were a lot of work, a lot of stress during that time. So what happened was the high performers normally would get burned out. I was also at the brink of a burnout myself. So I guess I'm lucky that our organization has institutional mechanisms for intervention, like for example, providing feedback, as well as providing managerial and leadership training programs for our managers and our leaders. So that helped me. So over the years, I learned to listen more. So I'm not saying that my natural tendencies have actually faded. In fact, I still want fast results. I get very impatient at times. But I am now more self-aware and have a deep respect for my colleagues who put in a lot of time and effort into their work. I try to listen and understand other people's perspectives and ideas. I am quite a believer of diversity. And I'm also very mindful of the pitfalls of group thinking. Group think happens when a bunch of people desire harmony and conformity at the expense of critical thinking. So usually this would result in irrational or dysfunctional decisions. So I guess that experience helped me actually in becoming a better manager, becoming a better leader. So.
Okay, so how did the CFA program curriculum help you in your career? How did the CFA program curriculum help you in your job role? You can explain more your job in more details with examples? And why do you think the CFA exam is still relevant in the current country and global context?
I have already alluded in my earlier narrative on how the CFA program helped me, in my career. So I can just elaborate a little bit more. The CFA curriculum is very comprehensive. And at the time when I took it, the topics were exactly the tools that I needed for my job. So the knowledge that I gained from the CFA curriculum helped me hone my technical skills. It helped me gain better understanding on how financial products and financial markets work. And more importantly, as a financial regulator, it helped me understand better how financial institutions, our supervised institutions, make trading and investment decisions. So it provided me with the appropriate knowledge and also confidence. Because if you don't know anything, it's so hard to really articulate what is required from our supervised financial institutions. So it provided me with confidence to push for more market-oriented policies. Of course, balanced with a proportionate regulatory and consumer protection framework. So when I encountered complex issues, especially when it comes to derivatives, for example, or at that time, structured notes and products, which are quite technical, no, I feel comfortable collaborating with market players as there is common understanding. I could actually finally understand the jargons that they were using at the time. And our conversations are usually based on principles of open competition, fair treatment, and sound corporate governance. So I am actually a pro-market-oriented solutions. And I think this is significantly influenced by my education as well as taking up the CFA program. Also, going through the CFA program helped develop my characters. It's not only the technical skills that is being developed, but also character building. The process instills discipline because you have 3 levels of exam, the coverage is wide, and you have only limited time to actually study, especially if you're doing it also at the same time working. So it instilled discipline, persistence, improved my time management skills, and also helped me in making good judgment in terms of prioritizing issues that need decisions and actions. So that's how the CFA program helped me in my career. On the question on whether the CFA exam is still relevant in the current country and global context, more than ever, I really believe that the CFA is relevant. As markets develop and become more complex, the investment profession also has to evolve. I think what makes the CFA program really relevant is that the curriculum is developed by actual practitioners who are attuned with recent market development. So it actually also gets updated as markets evolve. And markets move not as a result of decisions made by robots or AIs. It's made by, the decisions are made by people. So it is important that investment professionals not only exhibit technical competence, but should be grounded with values that will shape ethical behavior. And I think the CFA program promotes that. And that is why I believe really that it is still relevant until now and in the future.
Thank you, ma'am. So what was the most confounding ethical situation you encountered in your career? How did the CFA program help you navigate through that?
Usually the challenging ethical situations, and I faced a lot through the 22 long years that I've been with the bank. Usually, I won't have to go into the details now because of confidentiality issues, but normally this deals with the issue of conflicts of interest. And how did the CFA help me, CFA program help me in that? The CFA Code of Ethics and Standards of Professional Conduct reinforces our own BSP Code of Conduct and Code of Ethics. And therefore, but I think what makes the CFA program quite special is that It's very helpful because it provides specific scenarios and ethical situations. So what we took up in the exams, for example, the cases, etc., these are practical cases that actually happens also in real life. So those situations, no, and the discipline of going through the principles of ethics and making decisions based on the scenarios that were provided during the exams actually helped me as I also encounter them in real life. This, of course, coupled with my own personal conviction and sound advice from my colleagues, because usually when you are faced with problems and challenges, you would have to confide with your friends, your mentors, no? So within the organization, this actually helped me deal with difficult situations that may compromise my integrity and other core values.
Thank you for that, ma'am. What are the top 3 factors to succeed in the investment management industry?
Top 3 factors. Okay.
Yes.
The investment management industry is a technical field. So I guess in order for you to succeed, you need to build your technical competence. You need to constantly study and read. I believe that one is never too old to learn. So for example, in financial supervision, I studied capital markets, finance, banking operations, and risk management, as well as supervisory techniques for regulators. So when I moved to the office of the governor, I had to learn monetary policy, which was completely alien for me. And I'm not particularly a fan of, sorry, you are a member of the MECO. So for those who are taking up economics, but personally, I am quite weak in that field, but I had to learn. So I read a lot and I consulted with a lot of my colleagues so that I would be able to understand the decisions made by the monetary board, for example, and senior management of the BSP. Now, when I also had to learn about currency distribution, currency operations, production, and other parts or areas of central banking. Now that I'm in internal audit at this stage of my career, I'm still constantly learning. So for instance, I had to brush up on the international standards for internal audit, as well as to be updated with the principles of corporate governance, risk management, and internal controls, and how to apply these concepts in all aspects of central banking operations. So, but more than technical skills, so I've spoken a lot about reading, understanding the technical aspect. I think to be successful, you also need to develop leadership skills. Now, as I previously mentioned, at the start of my career, I focused on technical skills, but as I progressed, it became increasingly more important to learn from practical experience and understand what drives human behavior. So the second factor to a successful career, I think, is establishing good relationships. We learn from other people. It is important also, very important, to choose mentors who are role models, those who demonstrate the values that you aspire for example, integrity, excellence, humility, courage, in my case, public service and accountability. And I was able to do this. In my case, the late Governor Nesting was an inspiration for me, and therefore guided me in my path to growth, both personal as well as career-wise. And finally, I think to be successful, one has to have a passion, the grit, the passion and perseverance for long-term goals. We need to find, I think, meaning in what we do. What is our mandate? What is the purpose of our job? What's our mission? We have to think long-term. We need to be agile. We need to adapt. This will help you be more resilient and therefore also successful.
Thank you, ma'am. This will be our last question, and it is, do you have any suggestions for future research analysts?
For our future research analysts, my advice would be hone your skills. take the CFA program. That will really help you in the technical as well as in terms of ethics and professional conduct. Just like me, when I was your age, some of you may be dreaming of one day becoming a chief finance officer, chief head of research, of an investment firm, a treasurer, even a CEO of a large company. But maybe perhaps also consider public service. Consider, for example, joining the BSP. There are a lot of opportunities actually in central banking for research analysts and the field of finance. And our central banking operations are diverse, and some are actually very unique only to the BSP, like monetary policy, including inflation forecasting, management of the gross international reserves, monetary operations, FX trading, financial supervision, payments and settlement, the production of our notes and coins. So that also involves planning and forecasting, the distribution of currency, financial control, risk management, internal audit, among others. So it's really a vast field. So we need young men and women with integrity and professional competence to help manage our economy and provide policy direction in the areas of monetary and financial stability and efficient payment system. But whatever you choose, I guess it has to really come from what you really want in life. So just try to plan ahead, and I think you will be very successful in any field that you will consider taking.
We have one more question po pala, ma'am, and it is, do you have any career advice for students who want to join the regulatory authority?
Career advice. Yes, I've just mentioned that we have a lot of those who would like to join the BSP, particularly in financial supervision. So as I mentioned, you need to hone your technical skills. So there are a lot of areas kasi sa financial supervision. You can go on site examinations, for example, in banks. So basically, you'll be auditing them in terms of assessing how good they are in terms of managing their operations, corporate governance, their risk management practices, and determining compliance with rules and regulations. There's also the area of policy. If you are interested in research, supervisory policy, crafting rules and regulations, and policies for regulations. So there are various opportunities if you would like to pursue a career in financial supervision or as a financial regulator.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Chong, for sharing your knowledge and experience with us today. I'll be passing it back to Daynalyn for the Q&A portion of the webinar.
Okay, thank you, Miss Jane and Brian. We will now proceed to the Q&A session. So please write your comments or questions in the Q&A section, everyone. Okay po. So first question from an anonymous attendee. How did you prepare for CFA Level 1 exam? How long did you review for this? Yeah, it's from a CFA Level 1 candidate.
Oh, wow. I took up my CFA, the program in 2005, 2003, so it's been quite a while. But I think I have some, I just share some of the tips on taking the exams. I think first you need to set a goal, realistic, but quite meaningful goals. So of course, you would want to pass the examination. So for level 1 exam, the goal really is to pass the exam. But I think more than just passing. The objective should go beyond that. So it's more important for you to actually learn and deepen your understanding on the topics covered by the body of knowledge. So therefore, my second tip with is there's no shortcuts no to learning, and therefore try to read all the materials that are provided in the program in its entirety, and don't read them just once, twice, or thrice if you have the time. No, that's why you need to schedule also properly. If possible, read them over again, and then although reviews or supplements are helpful, but they should never substitute the main materials. No. The third one, I think you need to practice a lot. I did a lot of practice. Even when I took up the CPA board exam, we practice because of the time constraints. It's very difficult to manage the time when you're actually taking the exam. So it's very important for you to practice, solve problems, answer the questions, do the cases. Familiarity with the examination questions will really help you deal with the time pressure. And of course, you learn from your mistakes, and hopefully when the actual exam comes, you would be able to get the right answers. You also, of course, need to manage your time. So given the amount of work that you need to do in reading all the materials, doing the practice, problem solving, etc., you need to develop a game plan. So this includes scheduling your studies and review time and the practice sessions. So personally, I did this even when I was taking the CPA board. I would schedule up to the hour, specifying what chapters to cover, to be covered in each day. And then I would have like a time countdown. So I would actually be monitoring my progress vis-a-vis the time of the scheduled examination. But very important also, I think, is you need to adjust. So not everything goes according to plan. So even if you have a schedule, even if you have planned out for everything, so there would be intervening tasks and activities, and therefore you may not be able to actually follow your schedule. So that's why you need to adjust as well and try to monitor your progress in terms of the body of knowledge versus the time that you have remaining. I can't recall anymore how long I actually, in terms of number of hours that I reviewed, but definitely I had no more other time for other extracurricular activities during that time when I was taking. I really devoted a lot of my time to studying. So at least, so I worked during the day, and then at night time, 2 to 3 hours. But I would also schedule rest periods because you cannot, burn out throughout the process. You might get too stressed. So if you feel stressed, you need to relax as well, do some exercises, watch a movie, things like that.
Okay, thank you for that, ma'am. Next question po from Marian Panganiban. Good evening. What are the tips you can give to aspiring students like her, like us, to still continue achieving being a CFA in the future?
So I guess I've covered a lot in terms of the tips, no? But I think the most important is still enjoy life. So in spite of, let's say, if you really have a passion for, you're a go-getter, you want to achieve a lot of things within a short period of time. When I was just a fresh graduate, I wanted, like, I put a time frame. Like, I want to be a CFO in 5 years' time. Sometimes it doesn't really happen that way. So you also need to learn to be patient. Sometimes opportunities will come when it is time for you to be able to achieve your objectives. There are certain times that you might not actually be able to achieve your objectives, and that's fine. Be able to accept it and then work harder maybe. But at the same time, still, try to balance it out with spending time with family. So work-life balance is also very important. So if you're too much of an achiever, you might get burned out within that short. So think long term. So if you're not able to achieve it now, maybe in the future.
Okay po. A question on working with others. Hello po. About being a not people person, how did you handle dealing with your colleagues in times of misunderstandings, or if there are conflicts between opinions? As a leader, how can one learn to rely to its members if maybe merong times na hindi sila masyadong reliable?
Okay, so I think one of the challenges of being a leader is also trying to understand other people's perspective. And it's your role, actually, if you're a leader, to develop also their talents, their capacity. So I guess it's just not a matter of expecting them to be able to deliver uh, what you expect them to do, but it's also your job to actually help them achieve, that competency that's required for the job. So I guess it takes time and a lot of patience to be able to do that. And I think interventions from other people, getting help from other people also is very important. So if you're not a naturally inclined to have open relationships with your colleagues or your staff or your supervisors, there may be some people that you might be able to confide in, actually. So you can also try to get help from them when there are conflicts that you encounter at the workplace. So I think it's important for us to always keep an open mind, uh, be uh, be not too critical about the faults of others, be more empathic as well, trying to understand their perspectives. But of course, if there are times that you need to be firm, you would have to also be firm in order to be able to achieve the objectives of your organization. So it's a matter of balancing.
Ma'am. Um, Next question po from Cheska Chavez. Hi, Miss Chong. You've mentioned being burned out. What would be your advice on how to sustain passion and energy in the banking industry?
I think it's very important to be able to manage expectations. So if you set your expectations too high, sometimes you tend to get disappointed as well. So I think you need to try to strive for balance. Or in my case, for example, if I encounter a lot of stress, uh, exercising helps actually. So planning also and managing time. Uh, uh, Means that you won't get too much stress or surprises, no, because you have planned ahead already and are prepared for whatever unexpected outcomes might arise. But in certain cases, you really cannot avoid these surprises. So I think it's just a matter of uh, not to be too stressed about it and be able to ask for help from other people when you need it. So being impatient, try to manage that. Because I myself experienced that I've been very impatient. I wanted to achieve this and that. And I think what really helped me at that time was also having a good mentor who have a lot of experience already. So getting wise advice from mentors help. So they would say, dahan-dahan ka lang, it's too much to ask, or you're going too fast. You have to pace yourself and things like that. So I think those are some of the things that help me.
Okay po. The next question po are a series of two questions. The first one being, what can you advise for someone working currently in an international bank, probably pursuing to work on BSP later on? And yung second po is for those eyeing to take up master program, what course is more applicable if they plan to work in BSP? Is it MBA or Masters in Finance or any other related finance programs?
Okay, on the first, the two questions are related to working in BSP. No? So I guess if you work in an international bank, ba yun sabi niya,
Apo.
foreign bank, no? So I think your experience in the banking industry is an advantage for you because you are familiar already with the operations of banks, especially if you most of the foreign banks that I've encountered have very robust risk management systems and compliance systems, for example. So I think that in itself would already be an edge for you if you would want to work in financial supervision because you are familiar with the banking operations. On the master's program, both are either MBA or finance. Both are equally applicable. But I think for the BSP, I think the finance course would be a more applicable master's. But then the MBA, if you are already moving on to managerial roles, would also help you. So either, it really depends on what you would want to pursue in terms of knowledge.
Okay, ma'am. The next question is somewhat related to what they need to learn. What the question po is, what specific learnings and skills should we need to learn to be able to be part of BSP? From an aspiring financial student planning to go to the field of public service and central banking.
The understanding of banking operations is important. Credit, lending, treasury, other fields. So usually the BSP, we would require experience, a minimum experience of at least 2 years, I think, for entry-level positions. So although we do have a program for master's students, for example, with no experience, we have that program already right now, but most of the positions, entry-level positions, would require experience. So I guess in the field of, I would advise getting experience in banking operations, because I think that would provide you with an edge or an advantage. During my time, our batch were mostly those coming from audit, the field of audit. So that field is also helpful because it hones the skills of looking at processes, looking at financial statements, auditing, etc. So I think that area is also something that you may want to pursue. But any job in a bank, particularly on the major aspects of banking, would really help.
Okay po. On the topic of experience po, an attendee wanted to ask if BSP accepts interns who are interested on gaining experience related to central banking po. If yes, how?
Okay, I don't have the details of how they can. We do have internship programs, as I mentioned, the Young Professionals program for those who have masters already. But if you can just shoot me an email, I can respond to them individually, so I can refer them to the appropriate units who may have these programs available for them.
Okay po. Next question po is, good evening daw po. I'm Rizan Kristen Renada from New Era University. You've mentioned a while ago about the scholarship given by the BSP. First question po about this, is everyone capable of getting it? And next is, what are the requirements needed to get the scholarship?
So for BSP employees, we have what we call we have scholarship program, and anybody can actually apply for it. But there's a sort of a rigorous process in which you need to comply with before you'd be able to get the scholarship. So normally there would be requirements in terms of how many years you have been with the BSP. And then, of course, a recommendation from your supervisor. And there's actually a screening process as well in terms of the ability to stay on after the scholarship has been granted, because there's a commitment to stay with the BSP for a certain number of years after being granted the scholarship. So quite a rigorous process, but definitely achievable for most of the employees within the organization.
Okay po. A question from Ayla from New Era University. How do you handle work pressure as a CFA and as a mother?
Handle pressure. I like to do yoga. So I'm quite, I'm sports minded. So when I was in college, I dabbled in a lot of sports. But as you grow older, you cannot be too competitive anymore. So in terms of competition. So I started doing yoga, I think 10 years ago. So that actually helps in terms of breathing, in terms of meditation, in terms of stretching out my tired muscles and things like that. So that helps me in managing stress, as well as any form of other exercises, running or going to the gym, etc. But I think also time management is very important. So I actually like to plan my day, and even like for running, for example, I like to, because there's a training program for it now if you join marathons. So there's a plan. So I like to put it in a schedule and plan ahead so that I don't get stressed out with all the activities that I have to do at work, at home, and these other extracurricular activities.
Okay po. Next question naman po, is being a graduate of a well-known university one of the factors to be considered in order to be part of the BSP?
Oh, it helped, but only at the start. But at the end of the day, it's really your, it's really your performance that matters. So whether you're from a well-known university, as long as you actually meet the requirements for the job, I would have to say that in terms of my academic background, it was an advantage at the start, like graduating cum laude, for example, or so at the hiring process, the employer would actually provide more, put a weight, in terms of these achievements. But when you're in the BSP already, once you start like the rest of the other professionals. So there's a lot of opportunities to actually progress, even if you're not a graduate of the more recognized universities.
I suppose someone is asking po, as an organization leader, do you have any suggestions on possible activities that can help our members build their skills or their knowledge?
Can you repeat it again? Sorry.
And po, as an organization leader daw po, do you have any suggestions? Wala po sa Q&A box. But any suggestions po of activities where we can help the members learn and gain knowledge po?
Activities. In what context? Read. Read a lot so that you learn. That's always been my advice, even at this late stage of my career. Be aware of current events, even just through Facebook. Read a lot of articles, news, so that you'll be learning a lot. But I guess the training programs, workshops can help.
Okay po.
Yeah.
So we only have time for one last question. So the question po is, good evening, ma'am. I'm a financial management student from National University, Manila. I just want to ask how our current situation, the pandemic crisis, affects banks and other financial institutions like the BSP, and how they handle, or how do you handle these kinds of situation po?
Of course, we know that the pandemic has a lot of negative impact in the economy, as well as the corporates, non-corporate sector, even small businesses, etc. And as a worker myself, we have been impacted. We have to work from home. It has been a difficult adjustment at first, but eventually we were able to manage and adjust. And right now, actually, we are moving back to going to the office, for example, 25% skeletal workforce to 50%. And eventually, we would be able to hopefully safely get back to 100%. Although my personal preference is to be able to be more flexible given the situation. So there are a lot of adjustments, and I guess financially as well. A lot of companies have been adversely affected. And in the context of banks, there has been a lot of, let's say, deferment in the loans, as a result of Bayanihan Act 1 and 2. So they have to manage also credit risks in that space. And we would be able to really probably feel the impact, the largest impact as we progress. But hopefully, with the good news of the effectivity of vaccine, at least one so far that we have heard, that would help us in the future, in the near future, be able to recover and be able to go back to the way things were. But I think the recovery may take some time as well. But I'm sure you have also experienced the same as students, because online classes, is quite different from actually going to the university and the school and attending actual classes.
Po, yes, ma'am. Thank you po for answering all of those questions. We appreciate all of your responses, and I'm sure, like me, everyone feels inspired po to pursue a career in CFA and get
Thank you also
ganito.
very much for having me. It's been a very refreshing. It's really refreshing for me to be able to share my experience with a lot of students, and hopefully that can also help in making your own decisions when you graduate.
Yes po. All right. So this concludes our webinar. Please expect an email from CFA Society Philippines for the online evaluation. Those who were able to answer some questions about the webinar and complete the evaluation form will receive an electronic copy of the certificate. Um, and then you may scan the QR code to be flashed in the screen to view the career profile of Miss Mary Jane Chong. There's time for that. Please scan the QR code. Okay. And now, we're excited to announce that our next series for the Career Guide webinar will talk about the career path in fund management, and it will happen this December 2020. We hope to see you there again. CFA Society Philippines would like to thank again its sponsors. Platinum sponsor, Platinum sponsor, National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation. Silver sponsor, FTI Consulting Incorporated. And bronze sponsor, Infinito. Again, accept our sincerest appreciation for your time and effort in participating in today's webinar. Thank you, everyone.